Isekai, the most notorious genre in anime besides, well, you know. There are tons of isekai released each year, from peak fiction like Lord of the Mysteries to absolute garbage like the ugly bastard isekai. Like bro, who is producing this? Who is asking for this? I want to know. Most of these shows recycle the same tired formula of blah blah blah, I'm the strongest in the world after being reincarnated with X skill, but there's one more thing isekai always have in common. Protagonists. Wait a minute. Isekai protagonists are the ultimate hit or miss. They pretty much always have hollow self-inserts designed to make you think, oh my god, he's just like me. 99% of the time, the writers try desperately to make them relatable, but I'm not gonna lie, all of these self-insert characters are kinda shit. There are, in my opinion, and in my experience, only 3 protagonists actually worth talking about. And as you might expect, it's the big 3 of Isekai: Subaru, Rudeus, and Kazuma. None of them try super hard to be relatable. Like, for example, Rudeus. I don't even think I have to explain why he is in a self-insert unless you're Epstein or something. Rather than feeling like you are the character, each interaction, each expression, each experience makes you feel closer and closer to Rudy. Like you're his friend and you have an actual emotional attachment to him instead of just the same, he's just like me for real, for real. Now, Subaru wasn't in the same vein as Rudy. He never went through bullying as a child, nor did he have many struggles. His main struggle was his self-worth. His reason for becoming a hikikomori was because he didn't believe in himself. He always felt like he was overshadowed by his parents and that he'd live in that shadow for the rest of his life. So when he was isekai'd, he was finally given a chance to prove himself to himself. But as soon as he was isekai'd, he went through all of this mindfuck stuff which made him suicidal, self-loathing, narcissistic, etc. And bro, if you think anything about Subaru is self-inserty after arc 1, you're actually insane. Okay, now back to Rudeus. I said earlier in the video that if you relate to Rudeus, you're Epstein. I'm not gonna try and justify anything Rudeus did, but rather help you understand why he is the way he is pre-turning point 1. Rudeus, as you know, is a perverted freak of nature that creeps on little girls. But during his previous life, Rudy was literally a shut-in. He hadn't gone outside in almost 20 years since he was around 13 or 14, which is a major developing point for kids. And when he died, he was sent straight to a new world with his already existing problems and emotional maturity. But he learns about this world, talks to his master Roxy, and Roxy eventually helps him break out of his "everyone is judging me" shell. He's still a pervert and does his weird shit, but eventually grows out of it after turning point 2, if I remember correctly. Finally, Kazuma. I'm not gonna talk too much about Kazuma because I low-key don't remember much about Konosuba since I watched it years ago. Kazuma was the most quote-unquote isekai protagonist out of the 3, but done in a tasteful way that made fun of the trope as a whole. Kazuma is a funny freak of nature, relatable type of protagonist, but not really a self-insert. He has all of this fantasy world knowledge and realizes that all of it is worthless and starts working normal jobs, slowly climbing the ladder, learning about people, the world, magic, fighting, his party, and even about himself. Instead of using some worthless shit like, I'm in a fantasy world now, it's time to hunt goblins to make money, you usually see in the basic power fantasy self-insert isekai trash. All 3 of these characters are fantastically written in their own regard, but in my opinion, which is always right by the way, Subaru is 100% the best. Subaru feels the most human out of all of them. The best way I can describe him is as a mirror. He reflects the parts of ourselves that we don't like to admit exist. The narcissism, the insecurity, the need to feel important, and even the vulnerability he only shows to Rem. Early Subaru is unbearable. In arcs 1 through 3, he's obsessed with Emilia, obsessed with proving himself, and obsessed with being seen as special. He humiliates himself in front of the knights, destroys his ode, and keeps insisting he wants to do something for Emilia when, in reality, everything he does is for his own ego. The scene where he's recovering after fighting Julius isn't meant to make you sympathize with him. It's meant to make you uncomfortable. You're forced to sit with who Subaru really is before he's allowed to grow. There are tons of people on Reddit, TikTok, and even bloggers who have written about why they hate Subaru so much. They argue how he's weak, cowardly, uses his power stupidly. he's too loud, etc. But man, I physically can't comprehend what goes on in these dumbass people's minds. Firstly, I think a good 90% of the people who make this claim haven't even watched the entire thing, nor even bothered to read anything either. And then they spout all that shit about Subaru being a coward and how weak he is. My guy, have you ever heard of trauma? Subaru is literally a shut-in who already isn't in his right mind. Then he dies and experiences the pain and remembers all the pain from these previous lives. And you call him weak for not wanting to die. Jump. Breaking news! A man is afraid of pain and death. Wow, is it a concept difficult for you to grasp? This guy is constantly going through some bullshit or the other, trying to save the people around him, and uses humor and his quote-unquote loud voice to cope with it. And you still call him a coward? I've seen people call him a generic isekai MC. What about the 3 seasons, web novels or light novels, gave generic isekai main character? Also, a lot of people think they could do better in Subaru's shoes, but could you really? Like, really? I think most of you can't even take a stubbed toe, so to say that you can deal with literal death over and over and over and over and over and over again, well, me personally, I wouldn't be able to do much in that situation. The real problems with ReZero have nothing to do with Subaru. If you want to criticize ReZero, at least criticize the things that are actually relevant, like the author forgetting major story details, the 500 side stories that are super important for some reason, the pacing in arcs 4, 7, and 8, and the abundance of characters you have to remember throughout the 9 arcs. Okay, I'm sorry, I got a little annoyed there. Going back to the main point though, Subaru is one of those slow burn characters. You need to hate him to love him. He completely subverts the isekai MC wish fulfillment trope in which some random dude who looks mid as fuck gets 7 girls simping for him, has some OP cheat skill in another world using a smartphone, and is so smart. Subaru is the absolute opposite of wish fulfillment. His power comes from being depressed, suicidal, and taking responsibility for so much that his back breaks from all the carrying. Rather than growing powerful in the traditional sense of, I got a new legendary weapon / skill, he becomes a stronger person, becomes more confident in himself, gains connections with the strong, and collects achievements as the story progresses. All of this makes Subaru feel less like an escapist fantasy and more like a genuinely evolving human being. Anyway, that's exactly why Subaru stands out so much to me among isekai protagonists. He is in no way perfect, and honestly, he's pretty dislikable early on, but that's a part of his appeal. He picks himself up when there's no possibility of winning, and figures out the most Subaru way to do it. If you enjoyed this video, like, comment, and subscribe. It helps me push more of my content to the algorithm. I worked really hard on this video, and I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I did. Thanks for watching!